Bunny Tears. What's cracking, Bunny Boilers? My name is Bunny Tears. Welcome to another mind-blowing facts video, this time entitled Mind-Blowing Infinity Facts. Now, I'm very interested in this topic. I hope I can make it interesting for you as well. There's a lot that's hard to believe regarding Infinity, and there's a lot that's reasonably easy to believe with Infinity. So, we're going to get straight into it, but as always, first thing is first. This is a demolition on grind. The reason I picked this game, it wasn't because of the KD. As you guys know, I don't really give a crap about KD. I care about winning. And the reason I put this game up is because it was difficult to win because of one guy on the enemy team. There was one guy on the enemy team who chose a class that had a riot shield and a sniper. And the entire game, all he did was put his riot shield down in high traffic areas next to the targets, sit behind this riot shield with his sniper pointing through the little window. He'd wait for someone to poke their head out. He'd aim for just below them, and then he'd stand up above the riot shield, shoot you, and go straight back down. He was basically a human sentry gun. It was really hard to deal with, so I thought I'd put it up because it was interesting for me to see. It was an interesting tactic. It's something I may have to try at some point because it worked very well, and I think if the guy had slightly more skill, he would have been unstoppable to us, because we did end up winning, but he was just a hassle to us throughout the whole game. So that's what you're watching. Let's move on to the mind-blowing Infinity facts. Now, the thing that kind of interests me about Infinity is it's not a number. A lot of people think you can do something infinity number of times. That's not the case. Infinity basically means non-stop. So if you did something continuously forever and never stopped it, you'd be doing it an infinite number of times. Now, Infinity brings up some pretty interesting questions. For example, Infinity essentially means anything is possible. That's what Infinity means if you relate it to certain things. Anything in the world is possible. One of the famous examples of this, that about half the people I speak to are like, yeah, that makes sense, and half the people are like, no, that's bullshit, is this. If you had an infinite number of monkeys randomly typing on typewriters, one of them would accidentally write out the entire works of Shakespeare. Everything Shakespeare's ever written, word for word, with the grammar, with commas, full stops, and question marks. Everything. Take a second to take that in. One of these monkeys, in fact, an infinite number of these monkeys, would randomly type out the works of Shakespeare. That's crazy, right? Now, half of you are going to be like, wow, that's insane. That's pretty cool. Half of you are going to be like, bullshit. Let me put it to you this way. Let me try and make this a bit more understandable, okay? If you had an infinite number of monkeys randomly typing on a typewriter, would you believe that one of them would accidentally write out a word? That seems pretty reasonable, right? One of them would accidentally type and write out a word. So would you believe that one of them would accidentally write out a sentence? Again, that's pretty believable. One of them is bound to hit the keys in a certain way that ends up writing a sentence. If you bring Infinity into the picture, an infinite number of monkeys, one of them will, this is a fact, one of them will accidentally write out the entire works of Shakespeare. Believe that. Another thing that interests me about the idea of Infinity is our universe. Now, for a while, people thought the universe was infinite. Now we're not so sure. We can't really prove whether or not it is yet. Hopefully at some point in the future we will. However, if the universe is infinite, if it is infinite, and then the planets just go on forever, the stars just go on forever, there are an infinite number of planets out there identical to this one. In other words, there are an infinite number of yous out there right now watching this exact video. Now, I think I may have talked about this before, but that is what I love about Infinity, because it essentially means anything is possible. Another example of this, just to kind of put it into perspective and to make you think, oh yeah, I guess it does make sense. if you think about basketball. Now, I'm an okay basketball player, but I'm not good. I'm not a great basketball player. However, if I stood on one side of the court, turned around, and threw the ball backwards across the entire court, and I did that an infinite number of times, I would definitely get it in on one occasion. You would too. Everyone would. And not only would you get it in, you would get it in an infinite number of times. Let's say there's a 1 in 100 chance that you could possibly get that shot in, throwing it backwards across the entire court. 1 in 100. It's probably more than that, but who gives a fuck? So 1 in 100. There's an infinite number of 100s in infinity. Which means you'd get it in an infinite number of times. It's hard to comprehend, it really is. But then there's also the little changes that occur. So if there are an infinite number of planets identical to this one, there are also planets out there, if the universe is infinite, and the planets and stars all continue infinitely, there are also planets out there that are identical to this one in every single way, only your hair is a different color. Just your hair. Every other aspect in the entire planet is identical. Everyone's doing the exact same thing they're doing right now on that planet. The only difference is the person that you are now watching this video has different colored hair. How do we cope with this? How in God's name do we cope with something this big? That's why infinite has to be made a term. Because infinite isn't a number. It's not something we could ever achieve. We don't have the time. If I do something once a second for the rest of my life, it's going to be impossible for me to do it an infinite number of times because I will die. Infinite, consistently, it goes on forever. With this in mind, it makes you think what you could really accomplish. Because if everything is possible, why aren't you doing shit? Look at, for example, the YouTube channel, Dude Perfect. DUDEPERFECT. Now this is back on the basketball kind of thing. He does basketball trick shots. But not normal basketball trick shots. He does basketball trick shots that seem physically impossible. As in, he will take a shot from a moving plane and get it in. He will take a shot from the top of a stadium, right up in the rafters, and get it in one of the nets. And you think, holy shit, this guy is good. But when you think about it a little more, how many times did he go for that shot? How many times did he miss that shot? If you had the same amount of times that he had, maybe you'd get that shot in. If you had an infinite number of those shots, you'd get it in an infinite number of times. So I guess the moral of this story is that the fact that we can comprehend what infinity is means that anything is possible to us as humans. Now obviously an animal that can't comprehend that infinity is a thing, that infinity exists, would never be able to comprehend the fact that anything is possible. So go out there, try something 100 times, get a ping pong ball and a cup, and just keep throwing it from across the room. Eventually you'll get that shit in. And when you do, I want you to stand up and scream at the top of your lungs, I am a monkey that can write Shakespeare. Do that for me. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed the video. There'll be more of these come out, as well as some new series that I'm talking about or thinking about doing. But apart from that, bunny bitches, what's cracking, bunny ballers? My name is Bunny Tears.